Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here again with another installment of my complete analysis of all 389 Bach chorale harmonizations. So looking at Vater, unser im Himmelreich, which translates to Our Father in the heaven who art. That's an incomplete phrase. The rest of the verse says, to tell us all of us in heart, brothers to be, and on thee call, and wilt have prayer from us all. Very fascinating chorale today. Has definitely some modal influence. The melody isn't really clearly in a particular key. We have sort of cadential leading tones and C naturals throughout, which really is indicative of a melody that's more Renaissance in style. So I think Bach is looking at an older melody, or at least a melody that's written with older stylistic features. And yeah, we should just probably get into the analysis. So 1 flat in the key signature, we start on D minor, we end on D major. I think we're in the key of D minor to start things off. However, we'll find down the road that there are some interesting developments that happen harmonically. This first phrase, however, not the most interesting. So we move on to C sharp, A, E, and A. That's an A major triad in first inversion, or a 5-6 chord. D, A, D, and F. Another root position tonic triad. E, G, C sharp, and E. That is a C sharp diminished triad in first inversion. F, D, D, and A. That is a tonic triad, but this time in first inversion. Passing tones in the alto and the bass. A, D, F, and F. Interesting, we have a tonic triad in second inversion here. A, C sharp, and E. We know that 1, 6, 4, and 5 often go together. And then we have 1. D minor, D, F, A, and D. Perfect authentic cadence. It's about as perfect authentic as you can get. Okay, this next phrase is really interesting. We have a half cadence in at the end of the phrase, in the key of D minor. However, this section right here undeniably sounds like F major. A, G, C, A, F. Outlining that F major triad, I can't help but hear F major. But at the same time, the F major analysis really isn't that convincing. So I'm going to keep analyzing in the key of D minor, and then we're going to go back and look at it in F major and see if there's more truth to one or the other, because we're going to start things off. We have a D minor here. Here we have C, A, E, and C. We know that that's an A minor triad, so in the key of D minor, that's kind of atypical. Then we have B flat, D, and G. That is a G minor triad in first inversion. Sorry, this is in first inversion as well. F and 4, 6, G minor over B flat. A, C, E, and C. Another 5 chord that's minor, not major. That turns into 6 on this beat because it's arpeggiating. But instead of arpeggiating A minor, we get an arpeggiation of F major. And A minor and F major are similar to one another because they're related by a third. They both share 2 tones in common. F, C, F, and A. Root position 3 chord. We then get B flat, D, F, and F. That is a root position B flat major chord, or 4. Seeing some parallel harmony here, which is kind of interesting. B flat, D, E, and G, so that would be a B flat, D, E, and G. We know Bach loves his 2, 6, 5 chords. That's E half diminished in first inversion. That's actually a passing tone, so that's actually a chord tone, rather, a neighboring chord tone. And then we have A, C, E, and A. And of course this is C sharp, so this is a major 5 chord. Let's backtrack a little bit and look at this in the key of F major, because that's definitely what it sounds like to me based on the melody. So A minor in the key of F major is 3, so this would be a 3-6 chord. G minor over B flat would be a 2-6 chord. And then of course 5 would just be a root position 3 chord that turns into 6 here. And then we cadence on 1. This B flat triad is actually not a 4 chord. Sorry, I was confusing that with my F major analysis. It would be a 4 chord in the key of F, and that's where the analysis is going to end. We actually could go further and say that this E half diminished is a 7, which 4 wants to go to, but this is actually a 6 chord. B flat is the 6th scale degree of D. But this analysis, this progression 3, 2, 3, 1, 4, kind of weird. It's a chord progression that you might hear in some of the homorhythmic Renaissance music. Some of the just the secular music that you hear in like Italian Renaissance music, I think, of like the mid to mid-late Renaissance. They started doing chorales and stuff, which is interesting. But all in all, I don't know which analysis is better. I hear it in F major, but still this chord progression is kind of interesting, kind of wonky. So I don't know whether or not we're in F and then we modulate to D at the cadence. I'll offer both analyses and see which one you prefer. So we're getting ready for a perfect authentic cadence in the key of D minor here. A, C, E, and A. That's another 5 minor chords. So we have this juxtaposition of 5 major and 5 minor. Some passing tones in the outer voices. We have F, C, A, and C. The fact that A minor goes to F major kind of just feels like the chords are related to one another, and Bach is aware of that. We then have E, B, G, and D. That is E, I think this B is E, C sharp, G, and oh, actually, is that right? E, B, G, and D. In the key of E minor, that would be a 2, 6, 5, but it would be, or not even a 2, 6, 5, sorry, that would be just a 2, 7 chord. Oops, I didn't even erase what I was trying to erase. A 2, 7 chord, but E, C sharp, G, and E, that would be C sharp diminished in first inversion. That would make more sense. Then we have D, D, F, and F, an interesting incomplete tonic triad with 2/3 and 2 tonics. Passing C, or passing tone in the tenor. Then we have G, B flat, G, and E. Bach loves his 2 chords in first inversion. It's E diminished over G. And then we have G sharp, B, F, and D. That is a G sharp fully diminished 7th chord, so 7, 7 of 5, because G sharp is the leading tone to A, which we get on the next beat, A, E, and C sharp, with a little anticipation on the previous and then we cadence on 1, a D minor triad, D, A, F, and D. Alright, looking ahead, we have a perfect authentic cadence in the key of A minor. So we're moving to the key of A minor. We've already flirted with A minor so much, but we've never tonicized it. We've tonicized A major, but not A minor. So the fact that we get a movement to A minor at this point is interesting. And I think this modulation is direct right here, this G7 chord. That's a 7-7 chord, or depending on how you look at it, it could also be 5-7 of 3. I think both analyses are accurate because it's atypical for us to see flat 7 chords. At least we don't see them all too often. You know, Bach uses them, but it's, I don't know. Both analyses are correct. A 7 wants to go to 3. It just so happens that it goes to 3. C, B, E, or sorry, C, B, E, and E, or C, A, E, and E. We could say that this is kind of like 3-7 without the 5th, which is fine. Or if we considered this B a non-chord tone because it is suspended. A, C, E, and E. It's like a deceptive progression in the key of C major. It goes to 1 instead. So depending, or rather 1-6, depending on how you look at it, 7 going to 1, 1-7-1, but this is D minor here, so it'd be like 4-7-1, which makes sense. In fact, I'm going to erase this analysis and commit to this actually being a 1-6 chord for that exact reason. It's like D minor being 4, G7 being 7, and A minor over C being 1. We then have B, G sharp, B, and D. That is a G sharp diminished triad over B, so 7-6. This A is just a suspension over it. I lost my eraser on the tip of my pencil, and I don't know where it went, and it's not as good as my white eraser. A, E, and C natural. That's a tonic triad, A minor. E, G sharp, E, and B with a passing 7th in the alto. That's a E major triad or a 5 chord. And then we have F, A, C, and A. That is a 6 chord. Or if this D is your chord tone and C is a accented non-chord tone, we could say that this is 4-6, but it sounds more like 6 to me. E, B, E, and G sharp. It's a root position E major triad. Perfect authentic cadence on 1. Really good. Alright, so here's where it gets really interesting. We have a melody where it goes A, D, C, B, C. It sounds just like we're in the key of C major here, but if we look at our cadence, it sounds like we're cadencing in the key of F major. It is a perfect authentic cadence in the key of F major, but we get C major beforehand, so we have another instance of this mid-phrase modulation. Here, there's an argument to be made that we go from F and then to D, but here, I think we're definitely in the key of C major. So if we call this 6 in the key of C major, we can call this G chord 5, the passing 7th in the bass. Then we could have E, C, G, and C be called 1-6. And then we could have D, D, F, and B. That would be a B diminished triad over D, so 7-6. A, E, G, or sorry, C, E, G, and C. That's our root position tonic triad. And here's where we need to start looking for the modulation because we're going to have B flats in the next measure. So then we have D, D, F, and A. In the key of C major, that D minor triad would be 2. But in the key of F major, that D minor triad would be 4 with a passing tone in the bass. We then get B flat, D, F, and A. This really beautiful, my apologies. In the key of F major, that's not 4, that's 6. I'm so sorry, it's been a long day. D minor is the relative minor to F major, therefore it's 6. B flat, D, F, and A, that is a 4 chord, more specifically a 4-7 in the key of F major, passing tone in the tenor, C, B flat, E, and G, 5-7 chord, and then we cadence on an F major triad. This is C7 right here, then we have F major. Alright, moving into our last cadence, we have another perfect authentic cadence, this time in the key of D minor, with the B flats and the A. I think the melody sounds pretty clearly in the key of D minor at this point, so we'll just say that this F is no longer 1, but rather 3 in the key of D minor. Interestingly enough, we get F to F sharp, this augmented octave leap, which is interesting. F sharp, A, D, and A. Kicking it off with D major over F sharp, that would be 5-6 of 4, because D also happens to be the dominant of G minor, which is the next chord, G, G, D, and B flat, F, with a 4. I keep calling 4 F for some reason. We have a passing F in the tenor, maybe that's what it is. Then we have C sharp, E, E, and A. That's our A major triad in first inversion, or 5-6, the passing seventh in the soprano. Then we have D, A, D, and F, our tonic triad, or D minor, passing seventh in the bass, B flat, G, D, and G. That is another G minor triad, this time in first inversion. And then we have some passing tones in the lower voices. G sharp, B, D, and F, another G sharp fully diminished seventh chord. That would be 7-7 of 5, because G sharp is the leading tone to A. We then get A, E, C sharp, and E. That is our 5 chord in root position. We then have a little passing seventh and passing sixth here before we cadence on 1. And of course it's 1 major. I kind of cut it off a little bit here, but you can see the remnants of the sharp. It's actually F sharp, so that turns it into a D major chord. It's always really fascinating when these chorales, or when tonal music has minor 5 chords, because the chords aren't super common. One of the big movements from Renaissance use of leading tone to tonal use of leading tone is that in minor keys the leading tone was commodified. It was made much more common. It wasn't just reserved for cadences. It was something that was used throughout the entirety of music. So whenever we see leading tones, or whenever we see the absence of leading tones in minor, it's fascinating. Most of the time it's when we see a 3 chord, but when we see 5 chords without a leading tone, it's very fascinating. And the fact that this is one of Bach's later chorales is also fascinating as well. So all in all, really cool chorale. Interesting cadential structure as well. Lots of perfect authentic cadences, 1/2 cadence, and some tonic ambiguity, I guess is a way to phrase it. But lots of modulation, mid-phrase modulation. Bach hit a lot of the marks of the interesting things that we could find in chorales, or in his writing in this piece. So it was a delight to analyze. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for watching the video, and thank you for your continued support of the channel. I look forward to tomorrow's analysis, and I hope you take care.